So, dear friends, first of all, we would like to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I hope that 2021 will be a better year than 2020 for everybody. Um, Personally, for you and your families and the countries and for the entire world, but also especially for Palestine. Um, let's hope that this is the year that we see justice prevail. As we have been doing throughout we will start with an update on the ground. I know some of you have some questions. So there has been a lot happening since we've last met. For you who are part of the wave of prayer, you get this weekly updates from Palestine and with special prayer requests. So I'm trying to, sorry. So there has been a number of things that have been seriously happening. I will give you an update on general what has happened since the last Kumi meeting. The occupation did not disappear. With COVID-19 in the beginning, everybody was very scared, like the rest of the world. People were more careful with the measures of safety measures and so on. After a number of months, people started to get either depressed or overwhelmed with the virus, and people just wanted to get back to their normal life. The PA does not have, the Palestinian Authority only controls the cities, and the cities, they've been really able to manage the COVID-19 pandemic. However, in areas B and C, it's very difficult to enforce safety measures. Palestinian police are not able to access these areas or to implement the health system regulations. And Israel does not pay attention to areas B and C. So we've been back and forth from one lockdown to another. Currently, the country in Palestine, we have in the cities, we have a curfew from 7 o'clock in the evening till 6 o'clock in the morning every day. People are not allowed to move, and on Friday and Saturday, all shops are closed. The PA does not have the resources to provide for the communities who are affected, so it's basically leaving it for everybody's own responsibility to adapt with it. Israel has been leading has been the #1 country in providing vaccines. They have almost vaccinated close to 17% of the population. That's a huge number. The majority of people over the age of 60 or 65 have been already vaccinated. So Israel has truly been a leader in this system. Most countries are, even developed countries, have much fewer vaccination. I think the next country is Bahrain with close to 3.5% of the population vaccinated. So Israel with 17% is a huge accomplishment. In the beginning, most of the vaccination centers were located inside Israel, in Jewish towns, and so on. Then they started to open few centers in in East Jerusalem and in the Arab neighborhoods, even though that they were giving the priority for Jewish citizens for vaccination. But the last, since 3 days or 4 days, there has been more Arabs, Israeli Arabs, who have been able to get access to vaccination. So we still expect the number of people. Israel has an aim of really vaccinating the whole population by March, which is incredible. But also Israel is having problems. There is an outbreak of COVID-19. So yesterday was over 9,000 cases, one of the highest cases since the beginning of the pandemic. So the Israeli government is really pushing, or is awaiting approval maybe tonight or tomorrow, for a full lockdown, similar to Yom Kippur. Nobody's allowed to move for the coming 2 weeks at least. They want to put down the number of daily cases to less than 1,000, especially that the hospitals are full. Unfortunately, 2021 was also one of the worst years with settler attacks. And as you can see from the photo, it's they always have the company of the soldiers. The soldiers are there to protect the settlers when they attack Palestinians. And the reason of it is that they do not do it in purpose. The army, when settlers attack Palestinian neighborhoods or Palestinian villages and towns in Area C, the settlers are under civilian law. So the army does not have the authority to arrest or to stop the settlers. They have no jurisdiction over them. So they have to wait for the police, and usually it takes a few days for the police to show up. So the army, so they have impunity from the army, while we Palestinians live under military law. So the army can enforce the law or military law on the Palestinians. So the army is always present to defend the civilians and to punish the Jewish Israeli civilians and to punish the Palestinians. Settler attacks have reached unprecedented levels. Almost on a daily basis, there's like 6 to 7 attacks. And when you just open the radio, you just hear communities who have suffered all overnight. During the night, multiple settler attacks, from uprooting trees, burning schools, damaging vehicles, and so on. Especially the numbers went very up during the olive harvest season, because Palestinian farmers leave the village to go to tend to their the olive trees and to their sites, and this is where settlers come out of the settlement, trying just to show that to prove their presence. For the people who have been following the news, Israel is going to go into its next elections. There was disagreement within the government over budget allocations and so on. And Israel will go into the 5th election in less than 2 years. So it's a big mess. Unfortunately, most of the items, if not all of the items that are behind the reason why there isn't a government, have nothing to do with the occupation or equality or the major issues that Palestinians face inside Israel. It has to do with just internal Israeli topics that have to do with budgets, who is allowed to go to the army, who should go into the army, and so on. So this is going to create a very big mess. Unfortunately, Netanyahu still and the Likud are predicted to have the most votes in the next elections, while the traditional, the main opponent in the last 2 elections, actually, there are most analysts do not, or polls believe that they will not even make it to the Knesset. So Netanyahu again has mastermind and has complete control over the Israeli elections, especially with what's happening now within the Arab world, with more and more countries just opening up and normalizing relations with Israel. So in March, there's everybody's going to be looking into who would be winning the elections of Israel and how would this really change the realities on the ground. Unfortunately, most likely it's going to become worse for Palestinians. The PA is in a very big mess. It's with all of the problems. The only good news was that Trump was very bad in the past 4 years for Palestinians, and especially when it comes to the Palestinian to the Palestinian struggle or aspirations for independence. Um, Trump is going, hopefully is going to be leaving the White House, although we don't have high expectations of Biden, but we think he would at least respect international law more than what Trump did, and he will be less damaging to the rights of the Palestinians as Trump. There has been in recent months people trying to really bring reconciliation among the main Palestinian factions. It has not worked. The PA feels completely isolated because most of the Arab world, or a big chunk of the Arab world, seems to have either already normalized with Israel or on the edge of normalizing within what was Trump's deal of the century. So we feel we are completely on our own. A part of when we speak on government levels, there are very few countries who are taking the courageous and the prophetic stand to support the rights of Palestinians. So we are left with wonderful people like you, activists, and so on, to help us to really change the misbalance or the in the world struggle. The PA is also not doing very well financially um, for many reasons, and the PA is becoming weaker and weaker. And there are plenty of other Palestinians who are usually not or traditionally not liked within the Palestinian society, but they are getting so much access to resources either through the countries have normalized with Israel or within international aid, and they're gaining more and more power within the Palestinian society and more influence. So analysts and what we expect is that soon we will see a change in power within the Palestinian leadership, at least in the West Bank. And it is not something that is done, unfortunately, through elections. It's going to be something that would be imposed on us. So the normalization of Arab countries, traditionally, we felt that we as Palestinians, we are mainly Arabs and we belong to a bigger Arab world who would stand with us in solidarity and so on. Although little has been done from the Arab states in the past 2 decades at least, or even more, to support the steadfastness of the Palestinian people, they were still like a bargaining chip. If Israel wants to belong to the Middle East, they need to have good relations with the partners, with all of the neighbors, and all of the neighbors were demanding justice for the Palestinians. Now it seems very few people or countries who are interested in justice in Palestine. Everybody sees Israel as a superpower in the region. Israel is very powerful, has a strong economy, strong technology. So it's in the interest of everybody to make a deal with Israel. We Palestinians are a burden, we have become, unfortunately. And this is how even Arab countries feel the same way. Even you hear the same tone from usually left politicians from Europe or other parts of the world. So things are completely changing. Even the global south is even moving away from Palestine. So this year has been a year that has shown most of our traditional allies have been really moving away from standing for Palestinian rights. This year, close to 20% of the declared Palestinian GDP relies on tourism and pilgrimage. And because most of the Christians are also located in Jerusalem and Bethlehem, their work was very much connected to this sector. So the two cities, Bethlehem and Jerusalem, were hit the most because the main source of income is tourism and pilgrimage. So this year had a devastating financial problems on the churches, organizations, community, universities, schools, hospitals, many of them, which are very much church related, they have really suffered very much because they rely on um, the tourism industry and pilgrimage economy as one of their major sources of income. So it has really placed the Bethlehem community has never been as weak as they have been this year. So we are all very hopeful that maybe things will change in the coming few months with the vaccines coming out. We hope that they will be effective and not dangerous, and that more people will have access to them, and then life will start getting back to normal. But Bethlehem has been very sad this Christmas. So was Jerusalem during Lent and Holy Week. And we are hoping that at least when in April and May, when we have Easter, that things would have moved and changed a little bit. Violence is reaching also unprecedented highs within the Palestinian community. Not very far away from where I live, these three members of the same family were killed by another rival family, which also belongs to their bigger clan. And one of them is a doctor, the other one is a very successful businessman. And actually, the one on the left of your screen, he was scheduled to be married this Saturday. And the three were killed together, two brothers, and one of them is their cousin, by another family member, in an incident where 8 people got seriously injured. And what is very sad that this has not become unusual news. So we hear this on a daily basis inside the Israeli Arab community, and more in areas B and C where there's no really security and so on. Everybody's really surprised. Why does Israel allow so much weapons to be available within the Arab community? All, especially that they are illegal and so on. Israel has a very strong security force. If anybody thinks of resisting the occupation, immediately the whole army intervenes and the police intervenes. When it comes to Palestine, unfortunately, to violence within our community, no measures are being taken, and this is very frustrating and worrying. This is a brief introduction or an update on what are happening in the ground. These are very general points. Things are not good, and that's basically why we thought, or why we believe that Kumi is important, because it's we as Palestinians have been really putting our hopes into the international community within the superpowers. Everybody, we thought it was in the best of interest of everybody in the world to really move forward and to try to find a solution a just solution to the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. It seems actually that's not the agenda. Actually, the agenda is to really forget about the Palestinian cause and the struggle. So things are not within our favors at all. The only ally, and I think it is the most important ally, is the people of conscience around the world. The people who believe that justice is important, and they believe in the power of the people. They believe that change is possible, regardless of all of the odds that are against it. And that's why we have really worked on creating the Kumi. So the Kumi is not just a series of events and so on. We believe, and we've been working very hard on it, is that we're trying to create a new vehicle to really help people to come together. So it's one of the good things is that there's so many wonderful people around the world who believe that there is injustice happening in Palestine. They strongly believe that it is time, and it is already late, for Palestinians to acquire their rights. And that's very important. And this is why everybody, the people who are powerful, are really putting so much resources and energy to fight back. So it's not that they do not believe that we are weak, nor should we ourselves believe that we are weak. Because if we were truly weak, they would not have been allocating so much measures to try to silence us. I think we need to really rediscover our power as people. And the Kumi initiative focuses on one thing, is that it is we refuse to give up. That's very important. That we are here in the struggle and we want to overcome. We want to be the people who write the final chapter in the struggle, and it should be with liberation and freedom and an end of oppression for all people, whether they are Palestinians and Israelis. That's very important. We want to write the ending for the struggle. We're not going to allow Trump, Biden, or any person who is powerful in the world to come and tell us how we should live our future. Second, we realize our weaknesses. One weakness is that it is for our political factions have been unable to deliver to the promises that they have made or the aspirations of our people. They are so stupid that they continue to fight with each other. They have become they have become really ineffective within our community to lobby and to organize the people. There has been a number of organizations who have jumped in to fill the gap, to continue the struggle and so on, and they are all doing wonderful work. However, they are still also trapped within their own bubble. Everybody's working on their own. They do amazing work, but sometimes everybody has started to focus on a smaller picture because we're all smaller organizations. Nobody wanted to see the bigger picture. And so on. And nobody is really organizing the joint work. There's wonderful coalitions and unions among the organizations that as much as we try to coordinate, it's almost impossible. It needs a daily basis coordination, and that's a very big problem. So the Kumi, we hope that the Kumi will help us to allocate certain days, certain weeks, for for all of the different organizations who are working on the same topic to be working together in a date that is very much within the theme of these events. So Kumi is much bigger than Sabeel or even the organizations who have worked on it. It gives a vision for the future. It gives a vision of a bigger plan on really how we could all lobby each other. So as we are meeting now, we're 23 people. It's extremely difficult for 23 people to influence the world. But I can assure you that there are maybe 100 organizations or initiatives or churches or groups of people, if not thousands of people at this moment who are meeting and talking about Palestine. And our weakness is that we are divided. If we all come together and we organize on certain themes, that we do not forget or marginalize a certain topic within what's happening in Palestine, we would be able to be heard. Because if there was like 20,000 people who met together, that would be something that would attract the attention of the media, would show the international decision makers or the powerful people that we exist. So our weakness, we're not weak, we're just divided. Even the big oceans is only a bunch of very small drops of water. But the ocean is huge and very powerful. So we need to really think of not only just to criticize our oppressors, the powerful, the White House, Trump, or the others around the world. Kumi helps us to really identify the weaknesses within our movement. Because we need to be, if we believe that we are already ready to really make a difference in the world, we really to see why we are not being effective, why we continue to lose a battle after a battle after a battle. Yet we remain standing. So what we hope is that Kumi will try to bring everybody's attention. And I remember this used to be, for example, I grew up during the first Intifada. This was how things happened. If something happened in, for example, in Ramallah, it would be the center of everybody in Palestine. So everybody was speaking about the same thing, fighting for the same thing. If somebody got their house demolished, I remember being part of youth groups that we go and we rebuild buildings, 5-story buildings in less than a week. um, do really miracles on the ground. That's something that people, I would see everybody coming and helping out and so on. On our own, we cannot be strong. We cannot be noticed. If we come together, somebody has to bring us together. So what Sabeel did is what we tried an initiative within the right direction. So at least if Kumi is not successful in bringing people together, at least we would have failed and we would have learned on an important cause so that next year we would do a better initiative. So we are a learning, it accumulates the learning experience of the Palestinian movement. Now, the vision is very difficult for people to grasp. Everybody is used to let's do a lecture, let's give a sermon, let's sign a petition, and so on. And that's very important, and we do not want to undermine it. And I think it's very effective and it's very powerful. But it's not doing what needs to be done is to break the chains on our people. The walls continue to stand, the settlements continue to grow, the military occupation and the settlers continue to become violent with us. We need to think of something that we are able, we are capable, and we have the necessary means already. It's not something that we need to fundraise or we need something to really go ahead and recruit new people. I think we are all already there. We're already here. We have enough experience and so on. And Kumi Now is not only, most people attend meetings, lectures, conferences, and visits. Usually at the end of the meeting, most people do not know how to translate what they have learned into action, into an easy, immediate action. And that's a major problem within our movement. As Palestinians, you're all involved and you're all aware of what's happening in Palestine. So yes, some people would write something in the media, make a report, sign a petition, that's fine. But it's not enough. People need on a weekly basis, not for we expect that people on a weekly basis that they are able to do these actions. We understand life is busy. We have developed easy actions on a weekly basis that take usually less than 5 minutes for people to do. So even if it's 5% of the hundreds of thousands who really stand in solidarity with the Palestinians do these actions, dedicate 5 minutes per week, we are able to move mountains. You know, it's in the Chinese propaganda of the Communist Party. They used to say that it is if each Chinese person moves one small stone, we are able to move mountains on every day. And that was part of the propaganda. And there is some truth to it. And if everybody contributes a small drop of water, we're able to make a sea, a lake. Something where, I mean, if we are all contribute together, and that's the power, I mean, within us for me as a Christian, that's what, I mean, it's what religion is, what faith is. It's the power of community. You cannot think of the church, of the strength of the church and the beauty of the church if you don't think of the early church. You cannot have communion if you don't have people around the table. You cannot have feet washing if you don't have people sitting around and wanting to serve each other. And that is the core of religion, is how we really deal with each other, how we really strengthen each other. So what we want and what we hope for people to be helping us with Kumi 2.0, we've learned a lot from the first 2 years of Kumi. We knew what we were able to spot, thanks to the feedback or multiple feedback that we have received from wonderful people, on where the weaknesses are. We've also observed some things were too difficult, some things were too time consuming, and so on. But really, it's what we do. Our theme is to work less together for Palestine, but to work smarter. We're going to try to do this year. So what we did, for the people who were familiar with Kumi 1.0, it was trying to bring, it was a simplistic and a beautiful initiative, is to bring 52 organizations, allocate a week per, every week per year, to a specific organization that deals with a specific topic, and this was a form of unity. And to a certain extent, it was really successful. It brought more people aware of different organizations and so on. But we already saw that there were hundreds of organizations who are working, and it would be very difficult on a weekly basis to do it. And to do it even on a daily basis, there aren't enough days per year to do all of these events. So what we thought is, why don't we really create something more like Wikipedia? like an encyclopedia on Palestine. So we've built a week 52 topics of the major issues that have to do with Palestine. So whether it is refugees, whether it is Jerusalem, whether it is Christian Zionism, whether it is child detention, settlements, the wall, checkpoints. So on each, so it is, we've tried to bring and accumulate all of the necessary information and the important information, and we will continue. So we created this map that would help to find all of the information on a specific topic in one place. So immediately when you need to do something, maybe a presentation on the wall, you need to find out everything that has to do with the wall or so on. You have the basic information, and this is where we will start collecting all of the different international reports and material under that section. And each week was allocated into the most, there's many important days in the year. There's days that get celebrated internationally or by specific communities, but they have become something more like a global feeling, a global celebration that everybody. So it's that when we do these actions on, or when we're addressing this topic when it comes to Palestine, it is very much connected to something that is extremely relevant date-wise within the world. So this would be the subject of what's happening that week in the world, or at least within the Palestinian community that is really advocating. So we are really trying to recruit wonderful people, foolish people, naive people, who would think that that things are still possible. We are trying to show that that life always overcomes and triumphs death and darkness. And this is something that our ancestors throughout the world, always, all the tyrants have passed away, and their memory is forgotten. The people who are still alive, we are a testimony that it is the people are powerful, the people are capable, and change is possible. And it should not be different when it comes to the struggle of Palestinians who are fighting to get their full rights within international law. So thank you for being with us. And and it's wonderful that it's a smaller group, and I hope we will be growing from week to week. So we can open it for discussions and questions and answers. It might be good, Mark, if we allow people to unmute themselves, so it's a smaller group, I think.
They can already.
Yes, Jan?
Thanks a lot, Omar, for sharing this with us. How do you see it very concretely? You have 50 entries, you said, every one a year. I haven't been able to check the calendar as yet, but would you have weekly webinar type meeting? Would you continue to have those, or how would we share exactly?
So since we are all under, or most of us are under lockdown, yes, we want to continue these weeks. We were going to make the book available, and it's all of the material is on the website. I think it's almost done. Ryan knows more. Can evaluate. It's I think 99% done. So we will have the sessions, and we want to work together to allocate time. Every session is just to help you to go through this activity. We want to really promote and to promote this philosophy of really creating a movement within a movement, creating a new springboard of ideas. So yes, it will be, we will continue with the sessions for people who would like and are interested to learn more about a specific topic. So it will be like 52 mini conferences on people who are specialists on these different topics. Sometimes one organization, sometimes multiple organizations will be present. And this will force people to come together. So we will be doing the work on the ground in Palestine, trying to bring organizations and influential activists to work together rather than to work individually. And but also the main focus will be again on really promoting Kumi actions, or also what other actions that are relevant to the topic of that week happening around.
Thank you. And starting from this week on.
Yes, so today is just a launch and we're just letting people know. So it is, we'll be starting, the first week will be next week on Tuesday, and it will be the economy doing business well under occupation. Joe, you can unmute yourself. I think you are on mute.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for the words that you shared, Omar. They were very inspiring. As you know, I'm on the board of both FOSNA and on the local FOSNA chapter here in Los Angeles. I want more people to hear what you've said, not just what I might try to communicate about what you said. Is this being recorded that I could share with other people on the board of FOSNA and perhaps other FOSNA chapters around the United States?
Yes, it is being recorded and it's already on Facebook, and it also with a YouTube link. You know,
Wonderful. Wonderful.
What we hope is
I will be sure to get your words out to a lot more people, because it's nice to have 24 people, but those numbers need to be much larger too. Thank you.
I agree. And I think it's very important to understand that it is the philosophy behind it is not only that our job is to make Washington uncomfortable or Tel Aviv uncomfortable with the occupation. I think we need to also make to make even Palestinian leadership, Palestinian organizations that are very traditionally pro-Palestinian also uncomfortable. They need to understand the urgency of the situation, that it is, we're being strangled, and giving up and losing is not an option, at least when it comes to the Palestinian liberation theology or at Sabeel. And unfortunately, many of the organizations became somehow, and even the churches, comfortable with, even sometimes this is something that could be Sabeel, I speak, or other organizations, that we have become really, okay, so what do we do next year? Most of the organizations think next year what we will do is a witness visit, a conference, webinars, and so on. Unfortunately, many of us have been trained to live under occupation. We want people, as I said, foolish people to say that next year we want to celebrate the end of the occupation. This is the momentum, this is the spirit that we want to promote. If we continue to plan another year under occupation and what we will be doing, that's going to just make another year of occupation or 10 years of occupation. We need to feel that it is time for today. We are on a ship that is drowning, and that's a reality. And that's why we need to change our methods. We need to continue to adapt to the changes. And unfortunately, this tone or this spirit is very, it's not very common, at least within most organizations. So that's why what we see that the role of Palestinian liberation theology is to make people realize that the resurrection is coming. This is not the end. We refuse to be in Good Friday. We want to be on Sunday. And that is, the spirit that we need to be. It's a very contagious spirit. We know this spirit really made Rome tremble and fall down. Every empire, all the tyrants were able to change, to run away into history, and we continue to survive if we have this spirit. And whenever the people come out and they say enough is enough, we see tyrants disappear. And this is, throughout history, in every country, throughout every culture, and so on. It should not be a different when it comes to Palestine. So we want to make 2021 is the year that we really flip the balance, a balance that would be more focused to justice and peace. Because it is, we say it in liturgy in church. If God and justice is on our side, who would be against us? We need to have faith. We are not creating another oppressive system. We are bringing liberation to all, the oppressors and the oppressed.
Omar, it's Mariana.
Yes, Mariana.
And we have a Kumi Now group in Toronto coming out of our last visit to Palestine. And one of the things they've been talking about is the need for a calendar so that we see the year ahead and what dates come up. So this is great that you're doing this. And next week, I think they're going to do kind of what you're doing now, a refocusing on what we're going to do for the year. So this is very timely for that as well. And I think Robin particularly was always saying, we need Omar's talk from the bus. And so now you've done it. We have your talk from the bus done again, and it is shareable. So that's very encouraging to help us keep moving ahead. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
Valerie?
I wanted to pick up the point that you made, Omar, about the Palestinian Authority, saying that the group that were supporting normalization were in the ascendancy, although they were unpopular with the Palestinian people. And I just wondered where we can be involved in campaigning for elections. It's probably unrealistic, but where do we stand on that as activists? Who do we put pressure on to ask that the Palestinian people might choose their own representatives?
I mean, thank you. This is a very important question or contribution. I remember one of the, it is very few things you learn or I remember from school. And one of the stories that we read through in school, it was a very activist, wonderful teacher. She gave us this story. The story is about a lion who was the king of the jungle, and this lion got caught for a zoo trainer. And in the beginning, the lion was very he said, it is. I refuse to be a prisoner. I am the lion. I am the king of the jungle, and no place. And this cage is no place for me. And in the beginning, the lion was really refusing to eat, to drink. He said, I would prefer actually going on a hunger strike, and so on. And then eventually a new person shows up to the story, and this person starts to give support to the lion and just say, don't feel bad, you need to keep your strength. Here is some food, eat some, I'll give you some water. You're still the king of the jungle, even though that the situation is it doesn't seem into your favor. And this person continues to meet the lion and then builds a strong relationship with the lion. So, I mean, to make a long story short, at the end, you discover that this person was actually the circus owner. So that's how he made, this is how he trained the lion to stand on the pole and to accept imprisonment, thinking that it is their oppressors are their liberators. So, honestly, it's what we need to do is that we shouldn't really be placing pressure on one group of people or decision makers, rather, or on the other group. We should stand on certain values that we strongly believe in. And one is human rights, that if we believe in democracy, that people should elect their leaders, it's regardless whoever it is, whether it is the PA, whether it is Hamas, it is Fatah, whether it is Israel, whether it is the White House, we must believe that the people have the right to choose whoever they want to choose. That's the value that we believe in as democracy. So anybody who rejects the right of Palestinians to vote or to have the right of the vote is part of the problem. The PA is part of the problem. Hamas, Fatah, Mahmoud Abbas, they are all part of the problem. They have, we have done a study with young people. We have Palestinians who 100% of Palestinians under the age of 30 have never taken part in an election process. They have never understood what it means to choose their leaders. That's not the way to live in the 21st century. This is not how you make people who respect and acknowledge their human rights. So we need to not, our attention should never be on whom we're really advocating for or placing pressure. It is on for what are we, the values that we stand for rather than the groups. Nobody is immune of doing sin, whether it is the Palestinians or the Israelis or even the organizations, or as we all know, the churches. Yes, yeah.
Thanks again, Omar. I wonder how you link this Kumi to Kairos Global, because you have lots of friends through Kairos Global as well. And for the moment, to me, it seems a bit separate from each other, while they could easily strengthen each other, and especially as Kairos Global has strong roots also in the Southern Hemisphere. So can you say something about that?
I mean, this is not only to the Kairos Global or Friends of Sabeel or the internet or the student movements. This is, I mean, something that we all need to be coming and saying something is not working. We need to have this courage to say that things are not working. Very few of us have the ability to dream that 2021 will be the year of ending the occupation without having people. And that's the problem. What we do is we are all crying for hope, for justice, for a solution. We all sound weak in one way or another. I mean, that's honestly how I personally feel. I think it is the time that we need to all push, let's end the occupation next year. That should be the topic. And for doing this, we must all work together. And a platform that works together. Now, of course, we don't advocate, we don't think that Kumi is not a Bible. It's not the church, it's not Jesus. The Kumi is not something that is very fundamental. It is an attempt to solve these problems. So we don't mind, we can throw all of last year's or the last 3 years' work in the garbage. What we want is a better vehicle that addresses all of the weaknesses that we acknowledge. So wherever you are located, you need to be saying, these are the weaknesses, people are not working together, people are not working on a same action plan, people are not, are being so much fragmented and divided in so many different areas. This is what it means to be Kumi, is to recognize the problem. If we recognize the problem and we do proper diagnosis, then we can find the proper medicine. The Kumi is only, just think of it as just the second generation of a vaccine or a curement or treatment for the problem. It doesn't mean that it is the most effective, but it is an attempt for to solve this problem. Any circle that we are all in, whether it is Sabeel, Friends of Sabeel, Kumi, that does not recognize that these are the problems that we all face, and we ourselves as a movement have the possibility of being an obstacle towards liberation, we are unable to stand and with our hearts and souls to say that next year we will end the occupation. We need to believe in something, and when we know and recognize where the enemy and the weakness is, we are able to overcome it. So I think that's the spirit of Kumi that we believe in, that we are trying to advocate for more people to believe in and to join, not transform ourselves, but also to transform our movements so that we can be more effective in putting an end to the oppression. That is the philosophy, and it's not something that has been really created by Sabeel. We just looked back to where through the experiences and through history, through the beautiful movements throughout history where people worked on ending the slavery, ending injustice, bringing for economic equality, they had to address all of these issues. For some reason, we have become so much overwhelmed with the occupation, and our focus is more within the White House or in the within the quartet or within the UN halls, rather that it is within us, our streets, our neighborhoods, our communities. So that is what we are trying to do. And we really don't, we welcome people to come and say, no, that's not the best way of doing it. There's a different way of doing it. We want, this is an important part of the learning experience for us. And this is where we accumulate the experience and the information. So you have to be foolish. We have to be foolish. I mean, it's like exactly like the early church. The people who decided to follow Jesus, they had to be foolish. Herod was powerful. The Pharisees were powerful. It was a group of fishermen or people who are on the margins, people who were the nobodies of their time, who people didn't see them as the most important people to recruit into a movement. They were able to change the world. And I think that is very true for every major religion or social movement around the world. It starts with the people who feel the need of change and demand it and are hungry enough to achieve it, that they want it more than anything else. And I think all of you people who are with us today are very much dedicated. And you all have what I don't think that what we need is to recruit more people or expand the network or so on. We are saying, I think we have all what we need in this room. Honestly, that's a whole different perspective. Instead of just being sucked into the capitalistic church way of thinking, we need to grow, we need to become bigger, we need to expand, open new chapters, do and so on. That's not, I think that is what makes a beautiful movement, gives the movement its importance. It's a group of people who are in a good way fanatic and extremists who believe that they can change the world, and they decide to work together hand in hand and are willing to carry the cross, as we say, or the burdens of this task, which we think it is not major. I think we already have the power within our grasp to flip the balance. Yes, Ellen?
Hi, right, I'm from England. You were saying that in Palestine there's lots of different organisations, and I think that's the same with your supporters in other countries. That in England there's lots of people supportive of Palestine, but all in their separate organisations, and they might not know about Kumi Now. So I wondered how that could trickle down to their supporters.
Actually, it is part of it is that we are recruiting disciples, if you may say it. So we would like you to be the person, and we include this in the material. We would like you to come and to knock and just to say, there's a new way of doing things. We want to see results. We don't want Palestinians to end up another year in chains. We don't want the idea of Palestinian mothers giving birth at checkpoints. We don't want Palestinian children to be arrested. We just don't want to denounce it. We also want it to end. And the way of ending it, it needs to happen now by people putting their act together and acting more responsibly. So it's exactly as with Jesus. Jesus was much more harsher to the Pharisees. Jesus did not speak about other religions. He did not speak about the Romans. He was always critiquing the own community that he belonged to, especially the leadership that was coming and so on. And it's and as part of being within a movement, we need to always to be fixing the movement that we belong to. I think we need to change the level of success. Is that 1,000 people attended or 2,000 people attended this event or 100 people or 5,000 people? It is to putting not letting Palestinian children spend the night in jail. That is that's why our hearts are in the movement. That's why we are all together. That's why I think it is, we don't want Palestinian farmers to be afraid for their lives when they go and pick their olives. I know it is just exposing settlers' violence is important, but we need to put an end to it today. And it's something that we find lacking within our organizations. They don't, or within our movement. I say, and we're part of this fabric. We always think if let's plan an olive picking event in 2025. I mean, we do not see putting an end to the occupation or to settler violence. So it's what we are trying. Kumi is more as a spirit, as a movement within the movement, to really transform ourselves and the movements and to inspire the world. I remember it's with my encounters with so many people, and it's always one of the things that really brings a burden to myself when we meet people from Africa, from Latin America, the people who have been in their own struggles, and unfortunately they have a sense of a feeling that they've lost, that the powerful they came up they triumphed over justice was irrelevant. And they always, I remember once the person told me, an old person, he said, "You Palestinians are gods. You never lose. You are always in the news. We all look up to you because you are the only one who can stand in front of America and stand in front of the UK, of the world, of Israel, and just continue to demand your rights. And you're always around the table. Even if you don't get whatever you want, you're always around the table making your demands heard." And I think we also have, and this brings more a responsibility to us as Palestinians. Many people look up to us as we are the advocates, the prophetic voices of many people who are in the margins. So this is why wherever you see a struggle around the world, you find the Palestinian flag. We cannot let the Palestinian flag or the movement disappear. We owe it to the rest of the struggles around the world also. Yes, Martin?
I have a question.
Yes, oh, sorry.
Yes. Martin, he is going out with our dog who needs to go out, so he will soon come back. But I was wondering about the different, if you have any connections with different movements in different countries, for example, BLM, Black Lives Matter, and different native groups, and there are many young people in different countries working for democracy now, and they, I think the young people and groups, there are many groups in the same situation that the Palestinians, that when they connect together, they have a lot of strength to encourage each other. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes, I do.
When you say that they have the Palestinian flags, when I saw a demonstration in the US for BLM, and they have Palestinian flags there too.
Yes, I mean, it's one of the major things that it is, I think, for our struggle is that it's not to divide. In general, there are so many different systems of oppression around the world, and many people are suffering, and we have so much similarities with all oppressed people around the world, whether it is indigenous rights, whether it is all groups around the world who are suffering injustice. And I think the building of alliances is extremely important in this movement. And what we have tried is really to capitalize and to really build within, when we were picking the weeks and the topics, trying as much as possible is to connect our struggles with so many struggles that are happening. So people, when it comes to the environment in Kumi 2.0, we try to make it also, when the world is focusing on the environmental issues, we also focus with Palestine. So the purpose of it is not to exclude Palestine or to separate Palestine from the world struggles, but to really reintegrate Palestine and the struggle for right with the rest of the struggles around the world. So that you will find this very very clear with the calendar and the design of the weeks in Kumi 2.0.
Because the attitude you are talking about, to really believe that now it's time to succeed. The young people in different countries, they really have that attitude. When we get old, we are more tired, but when you are 20, 30, you have the strength to, you have strong beliefs and you have a lot of energy. So I also was thinking about the young people in Palestine. Do they have the, how do they think about the future?
I mean, it's unfortunately, yes, it's many people are pessimistic. Many people are not very hopeful. Many people feel they have lost. Many people are in Good Friday. That's why we are focusing on Sunday, on the resurrection. Many people, it's true. People and many people got used to the Good Friday sense that that suffering is part of our lives. We cannot really change it. We just need to live with it. So they are unable to see Sunday. Our hope is just to be the vision that Sunday is coming and Sunday is near. That's our job. That's what we believe that needs to be done. And that is our contribution to this dire situation that we all live in. So we are running out with time, and I want us to honor a 1 hour meeting, which we have already exceeded in 6 minutes. I really hope we will be promoting it more. Please promote it more. Try to engage more people with this Kumi initiative, and have the organizations or the groups that you are affiliated with is to join this inclusive body of new ideas. Yes, people will tell you what you are doing is impossible, but that's what we're trying to do, is to change the impossible. So thank you all, dear friends, and hope to see you all next week.